Mountains grow, rivers flow, stars shine on me head to toe. God, please free my soul. Grass catch me when I fall, trees stand me tall, cool breeze can soften my heart. God, please free my soul. I'm caught up in society. Help me escape, help me be free. Free my soul, free my soul, set my soul free. Leaves cover my tracks, rain wash away my muddy path, wind carry me to the moon and back. God, please free my soul. I'm caught up in society. Help me escape, help me be free. Free my soul, set my soul free. I'm gonna do it one more. If you want to sing along, you can. Free my soul, set my soul free.
Okay, two things. You wrote that song, yes? Okay, and it's very sweet. And does anyone tell you who you remind them of? A young Brandy Carlisle?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's a huge compliment. Yeah, she's awesome. Well, you're in good company. Yeah, thank you for that. That was so sweet. I listened to that last night, yesterday afternoon, and once again had me in tears. I guess this is part of what happens now in my life. And I thought about that in terms of this transition we're making into studying our power of faith, and today specifically looking at the element of surrender. I know, take a deep breath. God, please free my soul. not in some future day to some faraway place, but here now. And these teachings have the capacity to begin to map us through. We can use them from our physical, sensory-based, we do all the time. And the invitation is to recognize the highest way that we can use these teachings and these principles in order to free that part of us, that authentic self of us, that unchanging, unwavering aspect of us. And I was reminded of that. I've shared this with you over the years, that hospice nurse that shared over all her 35 years of hospicing people what was their number one regret. And it was not having the courage to be themselves. And I feel like that's what they meant. You know, they did what they did and hopefully experienced some joy in that, but there was still some way that they couldn't fully be themselves. And I feel like that's what the song opened up in me. And why is there a teenager up in the sound booth? Aha, busted. All right, not that free. So in truth, our soul is free. He must have been getting something out, but he peeked around it. Just as God, as the divine, is free of the mental and physical confinement that we experience, for sure, and free of the social constructs of the borders. And that within us, our spirit, our soul, that of within us that is of God is also free. And that is what we're wanting to surrender to, that aspect of ourself, to trust that aspect of ourself, to put our faith in that aspect of ourself. And it's not what society has us do. We get caught up in a whole nother realm, don't we? And then we finally come back to ourself, hopefully. So I've chosen, I'm really excited about this 2024 theme. I know it's a little late to release it, but that's okay. I came up with strengthening your core, strengthening your spiritual core using Unity's 12 powers. It came to me while I was doing yoga. How many of you do yoga? Great, yeah. I highly recommend it. It has done wonders for me because it's not terribly taxing. It can be, depending on, I'm not one to just hit the ground running. It's more movement-based, balance-based, and there are all sorts of different practices of it. But that statement that the teacher was saying, I do yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. I would recommend it. Very easy way to drop in. How we strengthen our core. And that's the hardest part if you've done strength training. If you haven't done it, it's the hardest. It hurts, and it hurts for days. But as you do it and strengthen that, you move more steadily from a place that's strengthened. And I thought, isn't that true of our spirituality too? As we connect with it, get familiar with it, and sometimes it's really like, ooh, is this real? Can I count on this? It can be so counterintuitive based on societies and the baggage that comes with traditional religion often. But as I strengthen that core, how do I move through the world differently? Just like when I strengthen my physical core. I thought it was brilliant. I hope you do too. Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. And of course, Unity has this pathway with these 12 powers that we've talked about randomly, but not really dug into. And again, you can use them from different layers, and you'll figure out that you do use them without sometimes even being conscious of them. So we'll be diving in. We've been working with faith already this month. If you could put that slide up that has them all on the body. And for those of you interested in knowing what they all are, they're in your insert. Under the theme. It should be before all that. And they're in the order in your bulletin of the way that we will study them. So they're not in, I will be using Linda Martella-Witzett's book as my resource. You're welcome to get that if you'd like to go deeper with it. Okay, it's fine. Faith is what we're studying today, and you can look in your, and I'm going to give you a quote that will wrap them up for you as well. And so I want to say this about them. Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore made an association with, in studying Jesus as the master teacher for recognizing how to live fully from his Christ consciousness, meaning he knew that he was one with God and he trusted that above all else and exemplified that. And he called upon these 12 disciples to learn with him. And so Charles Fillmore associated each one of those disciples with one of these powers. There are probably more, as I've said, but these are the key abilities that we have innately that as we cultivate, we also are making our way towards a fuller expression of our Christ nature, our own divine nature. So he affiliated them with each one of those, and we'll learn more about that starting next week with faith, which of course is the easy one. Peter, Simon, was associated with faith. Myrtle Fillmore, we have two co-founders. We think of Charles as the father of unity and Myrtle as the mother of unity. And she says this, that Jesus exercised all the God qualities we have yet been able to discern in a masterly way. God's love was expressed by him, but it was supplemented and balanced by divine wisdom, power, judgment, will, zeal, life, renunciation, release, strength, order, imagination, faith, and love is what drew him to people. So that's the way we'll be considering how those strengths, those capacities help us express divine love through our life more fully. Divine audacity, that fabulous title, she defines, Linda Martella-Witzett defines as bold spiritual living. Living under the radical presence that I am divine. My nature is one with divine nature or God. She goes on to say that although our spiritual abilities are natural to us, they exist in potential until they are recognized, activated, and developed. Recognized, activated, and developed makes us rad. From childhood forward, we have developed these abilities in their physical expressions. By working with these powers and honing them as our God-given abilities, we come to recognize, first of all, they're not earned. It's not a question of worthiness. They are innate in us, and it's up to us to use them in the highest capacity that we can imagine them to be. Through all aspects of perceived darkness, we shine that light, beginning within ourselves and then out into the world. So we've already been talking about faith. Roughly speaking, is our ability of perception, conviction, and expectancy. It's our power to make the imagined or the possible real. And we'll be diving into that more next week, because today we're taking that wonderful diversion by surrender that I know you were really excited about. Anybody have any baggage or resistance to the concept of surrender? Raise your hands higher. Okay, good. Yes, thank you for your honesty. Turns out there's a reason for that. That sounded like there's an app for that, isn't it? And there might be an app for that. Well, let's see by the end of the day. So, there's an aspect of surrender in all of the faith traditions. And yet, there's no denying that whether you grew up in a Christian faith tradition or not, we're culturally Christian. And so there are some of those aspects of that teaching that have been filtered and I think misapplied and misused a bit to instill fear, to limit us, to have this poor, broken, sinful human mentality. That who wants to surrender to that? And I'll give you the cliff notes of this as Linda offers it in her book as well, just the top level. That will help you understand, perhaps, some of that that's come through to tarnish your resistance to surrender, or maybe just your misunderstanding about it, your confusion about it. What does it really mean, right? And how do we do it? I think from the Christian lens, surrender has almost become almost a punishment or a consequence instead of an opening, and a realization that in order to know a higher perspective, a higher truth of ourselves as spiritual beings, we have to surrender or loosen our grip on our current perspective, our current understanding for how we've come to know ourselves, mostly through the protective lens of our small persona or ego. This is really the message I believe that Jesus was teaching, and certainly that his crucifixion is a demonstration of. And as Linda Martell at Whitsitt says, Jesus is regarded as a model of surrender by acquiescing to his brutal crucifixion. And so there's a natural resistance to that being the center of our spiritual tradition, that this had to happen somehow for me. I wasn't even here. And what about all the other people that aren't in this faith tradition? What happens to them, right? There's all of that. But that's really only the first level of the story. He's saying, I'm dying, this idea that I'm dying to save you. I'm dying, what I'm demonstrating is a death to my own agenda in order to live fully from my spiritual knowing. Now, this is a big leap here. But at the entry level, we could see that there's a lesson there that if you follow me, you too will be persecuted, which ended up happening in that early lineage. But considered metaphysically, beyond that literal experience, if you attune to and follow your own divine nature, your own Christ consciousness, not only can you expect to ruffle the feathers of the powers that be as he did, but you will have to abandon your tie to your small self, your egoic-centered sense of reality. Guess what? Your feathers get ruffled in the process. So in a very real sense, well, I shouldn't, not in a literal sense, but in a metaphorical sense, you will die to who you thought you were, which in reality was just who you became to survive in the world. And now you think that's you, and you're wound up in it. And you're wanting your soul to be free. So we will have to let go of that. That's the surrender in order to truly live from our spiritual nature. So it's a profound story of dying to the ego. Not killing the ego, I don't think that's really possible, but dying to its power, seeing its limits, and saying, okay, and there's more to me, and I want to allow that. Linda encourages us to replace the word surrender with allow. Can I allow there to be more to come through than just me, myself, and I? And we are. So religion, still operating from their own limitations, the early Christian leaders took this to provide a pattern for followers to humbly accept the hardships in their lives. You should accept and be gracious for the hardships, because look what Jesus did. How's that feel? Feels okay. But what if the message was not necessarily to accept those hardships, hang on, Joe, let alone affiliate them with the will of God, but instead to call upon the power of Spirit within to carry us through them so that we too can rise to a higher understanding of our capacity in and as and with Spirit. To ascend to higher levels of living and loving and being. And yes, in the process, we will have to release our egoic grip on reality, surrender to something more at work in our lives and in our world. I love what a spiritual teacher Michael Beckwith calls surrender is freedom from the bondage of the ego, which means we free ourselves from living in the neurotic consciousness of me, myself, and I. Linda Martella goes on to say that other statements accounted to Jesus have reinforced the idea of surrender as submission to the will of God. Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing of his own." What is the message there? Of myself, of that neurotic me, myself, and I can do just a few things. And by God, I'm going to keep doing them. But when I recognize there's more to me, I'm actually, if I can calm myself down and know what's going on in my mind, I can hear it saying, "Don't do that." "Oh, do you want to say that?" Sometimes I still do. But then I connect with what am I not seeing here, right? Because I'm in me, myself, and I, and protecting and deflecting, and what am I not seeing? So the teaching, "I can do nothing of myself," has led to a view of humanity as helpless and broken, and the remedy of which is just utter reliance on God. However, Jesus is showing and demonstrating how we can live when we too claim our spiritual authority, our oneness with God, our divine nature that will indeed ascend above that me, myself, and I view. It's a whole different perspective. Now, it doesn't mean, no, I'm not going to say that. So in conclusion, this is my goal here, to tell you that in conclusion, part of our resistance to surrender is reasonable, the way that it has been kind of misconstrued. And, you can't do anything of your own, just rely on God, just give up, pretty much. And yet, we know that we have, through the power of our mind, we are co-creators in this experience. So, Linda Martella-Whitsett says it this way, that surrender at its best is comprised of two distinct actions. And I'm guessing you can, those of you who raised your hand that, I don't really love surrender, see how this lands. First of all, it starts with release. So releasing only human limitations, which has been hammered in by our faith tradition. Thank you very much. So we have to work to release that we are just limited to our humanity and the ways that we act out. We want to be aware of that. We want to release that there is more to us. We want to release that in order to allow our spiritual nature to become more and more revealed. So, and release, by the way, happens to be one of our spiritual capacities, one of our powers of changing our mind, of letting go, releasing what we thought we knew, how we thought we knew ourselves for a higher vantage point. So we release the false notion of powerlessness, sinfulness, and any negative interpretations of ourself, knowing that we are more than merely human. When we are acting out of our mere humanness, we often act that way. But we are claiming and knowing that we are more than that. We release the view of the limited or finite self, which operates from primitive impulses based on insecurity and scarcity. And that is what we are waking up to collectively. we have been living in agreements and systems that have been based out of primitive impulses based on insecurity and scarcity. So when you see how hard it is to do for yourself, you say, that's how we got here. People in power were operating from that, whether they knew it or not, and we all fell in alignment. So releasing that and then yielding. Release and yielding are the two ways, the two aspects of surrender that she invites us to consider. So having said, okay, I know I'm more than that, and I'm learning how that will play out in me. I'm more than my human limitations. Now I'm going to yield. I'm going to yield to the activity of my own spiritual nature and truth. I'm going to give way for it. I'm going to make room for it. I'm going to do what I need to do to stop that way of being over and over from my small, limited self and say, what am I missing here? We give way for the wisdom of our divine nature to arise in our awareness. And we understand in this process, which is why many of you are here, and which is also why many, many people have left the church, that we do not yield to any external authority, including religious leaders or text. We go within to the state of our own awareness, our own essential unity with that, where we know it in ourselves. Often when someone's telling you how to do it or read this, you don't feel it, do you? I mean, except for me. Nice, thank you. So we connect with our true source, which is the source of all, God, by whatever name and nature you know it. So surrendering, here's her conclusion, surrendering, therefore, is not submission. You may find it helpful to substitute the word allow for surrender. And in allowing, we understand that we are not giving up. Instead, our finite self, our only human self, is opening up to the fullness of the infinite self, moving in and through and as us, which we call in Christian metaphysics Christ consciousness, or our own divine identity. So let's take a breath. I'm going to invite you to put your hands up in the air. Just shake them around a little bit. I'm going to lead you in a meditation to kind of, I know, I'm just giving you, a little bit of wiggle so you don't fall right asleep. Well, let's take this inward. I know I've said a lot to you, but let's practice. Let's have a personal experience with this idea of surrender as being release and yielding. So I just invite you to take a deep breath, feel your feet on the ground. We ring this beautiful bowl every Sunday, which is tuned to our heart chakra. So the invitation is to fall from our heads to our hearts. Just taking a deep breath, closing your eyes or lowering your gaze, whatever feels comfortable. And maybe just exhaling all the thinking, inviting your mind to slow a bit around all that I've just shared with you that has stimulated your mind and maybe your feelings. Just letting yourself gently land in this moment. Sitting straight up, feeling the back of the chair supporting you, feeling the strength of the earth beneath your feet. those breaths, allowing each one to calm our nervous system, to slow down our mind and relax our body. Just doing that is a demonstration of the intelligent design of our system, working through all levels of body, mind, and spirit. Noticing what we can notice when we catch our breath. And so we'll just take a moment to consider these aspects of surrender, of allowing, connecting with our ability to release. So consciously work in yourself to let go of any false notions that you are holding that limit you to this merely human experience. Letting go of your ailments or your age or your mental capacity, anything that would keep you bound. We're going to just invite that to release. I'm releasing that to allow for more of a higher truth to be known to me. So it's just an invitation to release the view of yourself as limited and flawed. Because that is what keeps us operating from those primitive impulses based on insecurity and scarcity. So while you and I may have our challenges and our weaknesses, there is more to us. And so we are releasing the confines of those limits consciously, purposefully in our mind. And just take a moment to breathe into the sense of freedom, the sense of fullness that that offers, even if it's momentarily. We release the false notions of powerlessness, sinfulness, and any other negative interpretation you have been holding about yourself. At least let your grip be loosened. As we then consciously and purposefully open up and invite our spiritual, our divine nature to seep into that space we've created. Welcoming it, allowing it, yielding. We make room for the voice, for the wisdom of spirit to be known in and through us. And so we, again, as our mind wants to kick up, we release that. We don't follow that train. We come back to welcoming the illumination of our own divine nature within our awareness right now, however it occurs to you. No expectations. Allowing yourself to perceive and to know the fullness of God within you right now. And however that is moving through you, However you are connecting with it is perfectly fine. It's perfect for you. Need not be any different. The invitation then as we move forward this week, guaranteeing that your only human limitations will pop up. We have believed them for so long. And so the invitation is a continual, gentle release. I'm releasing that to know more of the truth of me. So we are deepening our perception of the self, of the divine nature within us, and beginning to put our faith in it instead of our perceived limitations. We want to perceive our divine depth and ability in the face of limitation. That's the invitation.
I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith, I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith. Trust and I let go. I know that all is well. I have faith. I pray faith. I choose faith. I am faith. I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith. When I trust and I let go, I know that all is well. I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith. I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith.
I just invite you to take a deep breath and come back to this time and space if you haven't already. Sarah, I don't want you to forget to, would you, before your next song, announce your upcoming event and what you have set up? Okay, great, sure. So now is the time in our service where we give of our good in support of all that we do here, which is indeed fully supported by your loving donations. There are baskets in the back for your cash and check as you're leaving. There's also a QR code back there to give electronically. However you are giving, I know many of you do that online, have that set up already. So however you are giving or have given, let's bless our love offering together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am thankful.
And if you guys want to sing along, stand up, do your thing. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Who's that young girl dressed in blue? Wade in the water. Must be the children that's coming through. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Who's that young girl dressed in white? Wade in the water. Must be the children of the Israelite. Oh, God's gonna trouble the water. Oh, wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Who's that young girl dressed in red? Wade in the water. Must be the children that Moses led. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Let's hear this band. Sing it, everyone. Yes. If you don't believe I've been redeemed, wade in the water. Must be the Holy Ghost looking for me. God's gonna trouble the water. Wade in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Oh.